Bottom of the hour, get up. We continue. Another thriller last night at Madison Square Garden. They just never stop. Pacers, Knicks. And it was this play by Isaiah Hartenstein that is clearly called a double dribble, even though it clearly isn't a double dribble. And then the referees changed it to an inadvertent whistle. That got Rick Carlisle fired up, and ultimately he was given 2 technicals and ejected. And after the game, he had a lot to say.
Their physicality is rewarded and ours is penalized. Just, time after time. Small market teams deserve an equal shot. They deserve a fair shot, no matter where they're playing.
So there are some who will say the official. What is that? What is the
whole
face?
small market team thing?
Well, I mean,
you're over it. You're over it.
I don't know if you noticed, but in the West, Oklahoma City and Denver. Denver's
Yes.
the champs. Oklahoma City is up 1-0. I mean, they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Thank you. You can lose me with the small.
Look, I think what Rick was super angry about in that moment is that there was a violation that was just overturned, even though it was the correct overturn. Whereas in Game 1, there was a violation that wasn't overturned, the kick ball incorrectly called. And so, obviously, the hypocrisy is just nakedly out there.
It's also funny, too, when I hear the word physicality. Like, when has Indiana ever been physical? Like, they're not a physical team. They don't play that way. They play fast pace. It's not the way they play.
So to give him the benefit of the doubt, but the question I will ask is, was the officiating a part of the story to you of the game last night? Clearly it was in Game 1. That is inarguable. The officiating was a big part of the story in Game 1. In your mind, was the officiating a significant part of the story last night?
I think the call that we just talked about earlier, the missed call, no push in the back from Josh Hart, that was the one to me that should have just set the Pacers completely on fire. That play, because it was a dirty play, not a physical play. But as I'm watching the game,
we'll show it again here.
This is it. Just pushing Halliburton in the back, who has had back injuries. This play right here, for this to be missed, not seen, not called, that's for the Pacers to get fired up about.
The official is literally standing right there running alongside it.
I don't know what he's looking at.
Drea, I watched this in real time, and I was like, what is going on here? How do you miss this? This is wide open for anyone to see. I mean, like, I'm minus 4.25, minus 4.5 on my eyes with my contacts, and I was wearing my glasses, and I still saw that. I was on a plane at 38,000 feet watching this game, yo. Had Wi-Fi, shout out to Delta. I still saw that. So if you're going to be mad and get ejected over those types of plays, but also be even more mad that you had a game in which these Knicks have been winning, where they have had all their players playing every single minute. Yeah. Jalen Brunson was not on the floor. You built a lead, but you got comfortable. And that's why they lost.
His complaints and the 78 calls that they filed to the league office.
78 calls they filed to the league office.
78.
Ooh, petty.
Is nothing to do with Game 1 and 2 and everything to do with Games 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7. The Pacers feel like they are still very alive in this series. They began Game 3 and post-game of Game 2.
Greeny, it has nothing to do with officiating in Game 2. Nothing. I will say one line that will sum it up for you. They allowed 130 points on 92 possessions. It's the worst defensive performance out of any team in the playoffs this postseason. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
What do you want me to tell you? With Jalen Brunson playing 32 minutes, him missing the first and second quarter, Mitchell Robinson being out, OG who had 28 points in 28 minutes, who didn't play predominantly the part end of the third and the fourth. What other opportunities do you want? How do you not get that game? You have to get that game.
The 130 points are the most the Knicks have scored in a playoff game since 1990. When they scored 135 against the Celtics.
That's it.
My thing, Wendy, when you talk about Game 3 and 4, I do think he wants the Pacers to play with physicality and he wants the refs to let them do so. But how much more physicality do we expect out of this Pacers group defensively? Maybe TJ McConnell. Like, his physicality, he doesn't want that to get punished. But how much more physicality from the group?
He's just lobbying for calls. I mean, it's a tale as old as time. Coaches have been lobbying for calls forever, and that's your point of what you're saying earlier in there. But again, I mean, Tom Thibodeau, again, we love Tibbs. He worked with us here. Tom Thibodeau's watching his own team score 130 going, what is this? What sport is this that I'm watching? That's not the way he wants these games to go either. Now, you have to be really bad defensively for a Tom Thibodeau coach team to score 130 points against out west. Jamal Murray and the defending champion Nuggets. We know they're down 2-0 to Minnesota. We know they are in trouble. But yesterday, for the first time, Murray answered questions, sort of, about his Game 2 histrionics, which resulted in a $100,000 fine but no suspension. Here's how he chose to handle it.
it is what it is, and I take everything full responsibility, so on to the next.
Was it just your frustration boiled over? Is that what happened?
Yeah, on to the next. I mean, there's not much, 2 days ago, not much for me to say about it right now.
Were there any conversations that you had with people or anything just to kind of like apologize or whatever, maybe take a split?
Do you have any basketball questions? No.
Okay. Dre, you want to go first?
Well, I just think, I know Jamal Murray is one, gaslighting the reporters, like gaslighting them and making the reporters feel crazy for asking these questions. Of course it's been 2 days since the incident. You didn't talk after the game. This is the first opportunity for anyone to ask you about this situation. So to just be like, well, it's 2 days ago. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say about it. Well, maybe if you would have did post-game press conference and said something about it then, you could have addressed it in that moment. So one, he's gaslighting, and two, the way he's handling the situation reflects the situation in itself. Throwing something when you're upset is childish, and then deflecting when you're asked about it is also childish. So that's my sum of this situation from Jamal Murray. It's insane to me for him to be like, oh, sorry, that was 2 days ago. I can't say anything. I don't have anything to say about it.
Dre, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was a childish answer. It was a privileged answer. To me, that doesn't excuse Jamal Murray, but I put a lot of that accountability on the league. The league enabled him to be privileged in his answer, if we're going to be honest and real about it. He gave the money sign to the referee during the game. You know what happened on March 11th? Rudy Gobert gave the money sign and got fined $100,000. So now on top of doing the same thing that Rudy Gobert did a month earlier for the same fine, on top of throwing a towel, on top of throwing the heating pack, he got the same fine? The league let him off the hook. He should have been suspended for a game. That would have forced him to be accountable and address the issue that matters.
Look, I don't go all the way there and say that he should have been suspended, because part of what goes into this algorithm of whether or not you are is your history. And this is technically the first time we're seeing Jamal Murray act this way and have this type of tantrum. He was throwing a tantrum on top of throwing a towel, on top of throwing a heat pack. To me, overall, when I saw this and heard what he had to say, I mean, these are the defending champs, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt for being able to compete on the floor as they head over to Minnesota. But what I will not give them is this idea that, like, we know, we're seeing it in real time, the wheels on the bus are falling off, falling off in a way that we have never seen before. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the defending champs acting out of character. That is all predicated on how well they are playing on their home turf. We've never seen them in the past 2 years since they won a championship playing from behind, and now we're seeing their character in ways that are getting exposed. Jamal Murray himself, how will he react? We saw, okay, what did he shoot? 3 for 18, 17% in that game. How do you respond? I don't think this was a great response. How do we expect to bet on something, you going out there and playing well, when we're still seeing you haven't addressed the issue yourself? You could have been open to the media and said, hey guys, that was not me. I'm so glad to just pay this fine and move on to the next page. He didn't do that. So that to me gives another upper hand to the Timberwolves, because they have got in their heads. Murray and Jokic shot 25% from the field, uncharacteristic misses. I did not expect this. They still have the talent to make this a series, but the signs are pointing that the Timberwolves have gotten the real estate that they needed the most.
Also, this is what we're talking about, instead of noticing that Nikola Jokic won his third MVP last night, and use the moment to honor his coach Decky, who passed away earlier this year with the Golden State Warriors. And so you're not alone in feeling that way, because that's what Michael Malone said yesterday. He said, I've never seen our team react like this in the 9 years he's been the head coach. So they're all a little bit out of character right now.
I could play that. Do you have that? Is that the one you have, Eric? Do we have the one where he said to my guys to play like it, act like it, and play like it? Oh, we have that. Let's play that. Here's Mike Malone.
This is about going out there and playing the game of basketball the way we have played for 6 years. I reminded our guys today, fellas, we're the reigning world champions. Act like it and play like it.
So I give him credit for saying that. He knows what's going on, and I give you Nikola Jokic credit as well. I think this just has to be said. That response from Jamal Murray is one of the weakest things I've ever seen in my 35 years covering sports. What he did was practically unprecedented in NBA history, and to pretend that it was ridiculous that he was even being asked about it 2 days later is pathetic. That's what it is. It's pathetic. And so, look, this has nothing to do with playing a bad game. Great players have had bad games since the beginning of time. That happens. And if you get frustrated and you lose your cool, you get frustrated and lose your cool. And you know what you do afterwards? You say, hey, I was frustrated, I lost my cool. I shouldn't have done that, and I won't do it again. And then everyone moves on. But when you behave that way, when you don't talk about it afterwards, and then the first time anyone has a chance to ask you about it, you react to it in that way, there's nothing else that can be said except that is, it's bordering on pathetic. Candidly, it's words that I can't use on television to respond to it. And I will say this. You know when you find out what people are really made of? You don't find out what they're made of when they're sweeping a team that came in out of the play-in in the Western Conference Finals. You don't find out what they're made of when they're beating in 5 a team that came out of the play-in in the NBA Finals. You find out what they're made of when they're getting their butts kicked like they are right now. And that's what Jamal Murray is showing us there. Nikola Jokic is an MVP, and deservedly so. And you lose sometimes. Sometimes you get outplayed. Sometimes the other team is just better, and that's what it looks like so far. But this had nothing to do with basketball. Jamal Murray completely lost it. And I think everyone should have been willing to say he's never done anything like that before. He's got to come out and say, hey, I should not have done that. I realize it now. I feel bad that I did it, and I'm sorry. The unwillingness to say that speaks volumes. The things he didn't say were much louder than the things he did.
Shows some contrition a little bit, but Shanae, back to your point, I don't give him a pass because there were 3 separate instances. If there were just one, okay, but 3. It was like he continuously kept doing things that warrant a suspension. For one game, that would have made him feel it, because that $100,000 fine didn't make him feel it at all.